Today's episode of Hometown University is all about growing up in an entrepreneurial household and how some of the panelists today were able to harness some of the things that they learned over the years and apply that back to their business or even possibly raising their family. I hope you guys enjoy the discussion and find some benefit. You know, this training may be a little different than some of the other trainings we've done previous, but I think it'll allow us to learn a little bit about some of the experiences from these folks, our fine panel, and their experiences of growing up in entrepreneurial households. So I think we all might be able to apply some of that back, but I hope at the end of today's discussion, it'll have a positive effect on all of us and maybe make us better leaders, parents, you know, brothers, sisters, and really cherish the relationships we have with our clients and business partners and family members and coworkers. So let's face it, we're all entrepreneurs here, and hopefully we'll get some good takeaways today from these guys and be able to apply back to maybe raising our family or apply it to our business. So let's go ahead and get started. Why don't y'all give us a little introduction, who you are, your current occupation, although we know a couple of them, and who your parents are.
Cool. Why don't we start with the non-real estate guy down there? Still kind of in real estate.
My name is Clayton Cheatham, son of Dean Cheatham and Cindy Cheatham. I currently work in the commercial construction industry as a project manager.
I'm Jack Chenault, son of Rodney Chenault, and I work in real estate.
I'm Abby Allen, daughter of Mike and Kate Chenault, and I am a loan officer with Town First Mortgage.
One of our partners.
One of the partners, yep.
And I'm Ben Rogers, and my dad is Todd Rogers, and my mother is Becky Rogers, and I've been a realtor at Hometown since 2012.
Sweet, thank you guys. To start off, I'm gonna broaden it out a little bit, and then we'll bring it back with some other questions. But you know, what are some of the things you've learned over the years from your parents that had a significant direction in your life? You know, kind of growing up in these entrepreneurial households.
I think probably just like sitting with these guys right here. It should note at first, like family's obviously at the center of all of it. Like I would probably compare you guys more as probably closer probably to brothers and sisters than first cousins, but basically y'all grew up together. Like I think obviously you're close with your cousin who's in the audience, but I know for me, like I'm not really that close with my cousins. Like I'm way closer with these guys and their brothers and sisters. So I think like the easy answer to that question for me would just be the family and the love that goes along with it. Of course, there's more specifics in terms of like structure and discipline and those types of things, but just in general, the family aspect of it is huge. I'm sure you guys would agree.
Yeah. And I think, and this is one of Benjamin's favorite things, but I think all of us and our siblings probably learned a lot of integrity and characteristics from our parents because of their work in this industry.
I think something I'll add too is like, I mean, it's one of Hometown's mottos: treat people the way you want to be treated. Business with your four best friends is really, really tough, but we never saw that as a kids of that. It was always positive. Oh yeah, well, I mean, but very rare did you ever see the tough part about the business. They kept it right. They treated people the right way. They treated each other the right way, and it helped us grow into a family. That relationship doesn't skew in one day. That's 24 years of my life. I can come into Benjamin's office and sit down and talk about whatever I need to. Same way with Jack, Abby. I mean, that just doesn't happen when you don't have good leadership above you. And I think it's a testament to what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, just for any new faces who don't know, so Mike, Todd, Dean, and Rodney, I mean, they're like the four best friends that anybody could have. They all met, I mean, obviously Rodney and Mike knew each other before that, but they all met each other really through the real estate business, but then became best friends as a result of that. And because of that, we've all now become family.
So I guess to follow up, like for you three here, did the real estate was real estate something you were always going to do, or after college did you not really have a direction, and then all of a sudden you were like, you know what, I'm gonna try this? Or
So I actually wanted to either be a doctor or a veterinarian. And when I decided junior year of college not to go down that path and take any of those professional exams and proceed with those applications, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I added a minor in economics because that was the best thing I could add to my science major. and still graduate on time. And Dad was like, just get your real estate license. And much like he said
That's like
to a
the
lot
fall.
of people in the room, right? So I did. I actually held my real estate license on referral status for a year prior to graduating college.
Did you ever refer any deals?
I think I might have sent one to Blakely actually, to River House.
Did you ever
Yeah.
pay her for it?
I don't, it did. I might have. I think we tried to work something out there, but anyways, I know and love a lot of people in this room, and just the way that my brain works, and I think my skill set works a little bit better on the mortgage side of the table, and so ultimately decided to do that. No longer have my real estate license because it's a conflict of interest, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and obviously my dad had a huge part in pushing me into the industry, but ultimately I decided that selling real estate was not for me, and I found something within the industry that suited me a little bit better.
Jason?
Going into college, I wanted to be a sports agent, and then I found out that most sports agents could go to law school, so after that.
That was all.
Same thing.
Definitely weren't doing that.
Professional school,
Yeah.
but-
After that, I kind of knew I was going into real estate. I majored in communications at Randolph-Macon, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I guess you'd consider you kind of in real estate, but the Cheatham family's been the only kids that have successfully avoided the real estate business.
It wasn't on purpose. I mean, it's not like I avoided this company. But no, so I went to James Madison and I was a sports and recreation management major. I've always sort of been interested in construction. I was on the Duke crew for RCI for a couple years in high school, and then ended up getting a couple internships in college with commercial construction, general contractors, and now I work for a subcontractor. We do drywall, metal studs, acoustic ceilings, and I just love seeing something go start to finish, which is similar to real estate. You see the deal go start to finish and you move on. And for me, I never look at the same thing every day, and continue to grow and continue to get a little bit bigger job, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And that was something that I wanted to do, and it's worked out. I'm really happy where I am, but it wasn't
we
a
all-
slight on Hometown Realty at all for not coming to work.
At some point, I think all of us worked on the RCI
Yeah, that was,
crew,
I think,
the B crew, yeah,
Clean up
big
crew.
crew.
cleanup crew.
Yeah, the
Cut the grass.
That's
The
right.
girls got it.
The girls got away from it.
All right, we'll move. You kind of answered my second question a little bit, but I'll go into the third. So the Chenaults, the Cheathams, and the Rogers, y'all all kind of grew up together. And what are some of the things you learned from the other parents in your circle?
I'll kick this one off because I do a lot of training here at Hometown, and I kind of have like the one lesson I've learned from each one, and I think I could probably point to specific instances in our childhood, and kind of where I've learned that. But kind of going back to the last question, I'm the oldest of our whole crew of the kids, and I think a lot of people, whether inside or outside, kind of expected me to be like the next man up in the real estate business, and I actually didn't want to get into it at all. Like like a kid, I wanted to play in the NFL, and then I wanted to coach in the NFL, and then I realized I probably wasn't cut out for either of those things, so got my real estate license, here I am. I'm just kidding, but whether Hometown's selling houses or Hometown selling golf carts, like Hometown Realty and its values and the people are why you want to work for it, not because of the product we're selling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about that service aspect from each person, and just kind of, I guess, just going down the line, like from Mike, and everybody can relate to this, that you learn very quickly if you don't ask. The answer is always 100% of the time no. I mean, like when you think about Mike, that's what I think of. When I think about Rodney's got some really close, he has fewer, but really insanely close relationships. Like Rodney told me one time, he said, everybody knows their barber, everybody knows their dentist, everybody's got their doctor. Why shouldn't everybody have their realtor too? And I've always kind of related to that, right? Big Dean, who I think is probably one of the best speakers and presenters and trainers that not only just in our company, but that I've ever seen or been a part of. He always talks about, anytime you take one step up the ladder, you should always reach back down and pull somebody else up with you. And so I'll always relate on that from Dean. And just, in general, all of these guys, like just the humor that they in everything that they do, like they're always lighthearted enough to cut a joke, and that just makes things, I think, more fun. And then for my dad, he's always been really good about focusing on things that you can control. Control what you can control, and it's, even though it may be hard to let go of some things that you can't control, if we focus our energy and thoughts on things we can't control, we're toast. So for me, I mean, I guess I learned a lot from all those guys, but those are kind of specific lessons for me.
Anything come to mind, Abby?
I mean, not necessarily specifics from any of our parents, but just more in general. I think what we all probably learned is, we grew up like a family. Like, we're not blood related, and they were together all the time with work, but we didn't necessarily see or hear a ton about work when we were doing things outside of work. And I think really what's applicable to all of us is just the community and how that is so impactful to like your kids and your families, but also, you know, any of your friends that are entrepreneurs themselves. It really takes a village. You hear that when you're raising kids and things, but I just recall times growing up where, you know, I don't know what my parents might have been off doing, but I was either at one of their houses with their parents, or in high school having arguments with my parents, and I'd find myself on the phone with Cindy Cheatham or Becky Rogers and those sorts of things. So like raising children with the relationships that we were fortunate enough to have, I think it really kind of formed all of us into who we are, and kind of knowing that we had all of those mentors in our life. So again, not anything super specific that I learned from each of them. They all have very different personalities and opinions. But I mean, it was sort of like, we kind of, in a way, had 8 parents instead of 2 for certain things, and that's something really cool that I know that Skylar and I really hope that we can give to our kids.
Well, and kind of going with that, like, you know, one of my largest fear, what I would create the most stress for myself early on was like, I didn't want to be the guy that was just like following my father's footsteps. My dad gives everything to me and that kind of stuff. And because we're around so much community, a lot of people naturally think that. And you know, we are very spoiled in the fact that our greatest mentors are probably our collective parents. Like, in that sense, we are very spoiled. But also, I think all of us started doing work with or for our parents when we were in 6th or 7th grade. You know what I mean? So like, we've had to earn a lot of what we have, and we're fortunate to have funneled into that system of mentorship and leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I have specific things about each one that I really admire, and it's more on like a personal level, like not even in business because I'm not in the business, but just like about life. I mean, when I think of Todd, it comes discipline. Like, you can go by the RCI office any Sunday afternoon and that guy's there getting it done, controlling what he can control. Like, he can control what he gets done on Sunday afternoon when no one else is there, he's doing it. So the discipline aspect is like, you want to be that kind of guy, you want to run that kind of business, you got to put the time in, you got to be disciplined. I mean, I keep going back to control what you can control. For Mike, it's, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's the hustle. He's got a million things going on, every which way people are pulling him, but he keeps it in line. And I've always admired him about that, like, for that, because it's awesome. Like, he can be in the car here, he makes 4 deals, goes fishing, does this, does that, and yet he's still the same person when you sit down and talk to him, and that's really cool. And then for Rodney, I mean, me and Jack grew up as best friends, brothers. Rodney just always showed me the love, and I think that kind of ties into what Benjamin was saying, having, you know, you're a realtor, but I also had like a second dad in him, because me and Jack were so close in age and so close growing up. I was always over there, always, and he always treated me like one of his own. So that is, you know, a really, really good thing. And, you know, for my father, it's just so many things. Like, I think it's really, really cool the impact that he has on people, being able to speak and communicate with young people, old people, everybody, and just having that much of an impact and seeing that throughout the community. Like, I remember as a little kid, like, going around and being out to dinner and being so mad because we had to sit there and we had to talk to this guy I know from this deal,
That's
and
the
then,
expressive in him.
but that's I'm thankful for that now, because it shows what kind of impact he has on people. So I'm really thankful for that.
That's pretty amazing.
JC?
All good quality.
Yeah, y'all hit a lot of them, but I'll just say the way they manage relationships with their kids, with all of us, it's taught us how to really value every person that comes into our life. And yeah, I got nothing else to say. I've said everything.
All right, moving on to the next one. So Abby and Benjamin, both of you have 2 kids. Clayton's got one on the way, congrats. And Jack's working on it. This may be a little more personal, but we'll see where we go with this. What are some of the things you're doing when raising your kids, or not doing, based on being raised in these entrepreneurial households?
Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first? I'll go first. I mean, like, all of the good stuff, obvious, and I guess maybe a lesson I learned that I saw my dad correct. We make it a point to try to have family dinners, you know, growing up. And I remember a lot of times my dad would pull in the garage and he'd sit in the garage on his phone for like 30 minutes. And we're like sitting at the dinner table, like holding hands, ready to say blessing. We're just waiting. We couldn't touch our food until he walked in.
Hold the mic.
Yeah, and so now what I do is I pull in the neighborhood and drive around the neighborhood for 30 minutes. I pull in the garage to get the
So you know where to see you.
Well, a lot of people have probably seen him parked at the field in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, instead of driving around, he parked.
That's right, yeah, that's right. But yeah, I mean, gosh, all the good, I don't know, I can maybe think on and give a few more specifics, but I do think about the garage thing a lot. I try not to walk in the house with the phone up to my ear, and that's something that my dad did a great job of. I definitely learned from, and I mean, you know, I obviously can't speak.
Separating the family. And
Yeah, of course, yeah, and you know, and we'll probably could go on a whole another topic just about our moms in general, but I mean, I guess for the most part, kind of your classic stay-at-home moms on paper, but they weren't that. Like, I think they kept themselves busier than everybody else. You know what I mean?
Are.
Yeah, they still are doing more than everybody else. So. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of like Benjamin was saying, I feel like when we think about like the cons of this industry, it's nights and weekends, right? We're flexible. It's really not flexible. There's no such thing as vacation, right? But I don't recall growing up and feeling that from my dad, and I'm sure he was taking phone calls and doing things, and maybe he might not have been at a certain, I don't know, horse show or whatever, but whenever he was there with us growing up, he was very involved and he was very supportive. And so, like Benjamin was saying, not walking and being on the phone is something that I try to do more with my kids. Obviously, I'm available in the evenings for folks that need me, but a lot of
Yeah,
times.
for those realtors that are trying to refer me, she is available.
I am
Make sure you guys
available,
know that.
but I do try to set the boundary and the expectation now that I do have 2 kids in the house. And so I have a lot of great partners that understand that, and I can say, hey, I'm at a soccer game, I'll call you back, like that sort of stuff. And I think that is part of what, you know, it's tough about this industry, but it's also a blessing because it also shows like what it takes to be successful to our kids. So there's definitely a fine line, but I just think being present when we're there or when we're at things, and maybe not going to the soccer game and being on the phone the whole time. If you've got to take a call, do it real quick, and then make sure you're right there being their #1 fan. And that's something that,
Well, you think about like we get together on December 23rd every year. We've done it ever since I can remember, and it's always at the Cheatham's house. Started back in Ash Creek forever ago, and I don't, even to this day, you don't really find many people there with their faces stuffed in their phones. You just don't. I mean, we're chatting and we're just doing our thing, you know. And
it's a relationship.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, make no doubt about it. Like, we all knew like our fathers were in real estate. Like they do talk about it. It's not like they completely shut it off, but they do a great job separating. And then I wanted to just make one note as far as like the parenting stuff. All of us grew up playing sports and doing all the extracurricular stuff. Every single one of our fathers coached at some point or another.
Yep.
Every single one of them.
My dad even coached Sam's football team because he didn't have any
Didn't
boys
have
of
any
his
boys.
own. So he might not have coached us, but he coached softball and
Right.
he did find his way back to football.
I just think, I mean, they just hit it right on the head there. There's always time for being present, like, and hopefully everyone's blessed enough to be able to be successful enough in real estate where you can start to set your own schedule a little bit more and be there. And that's what I loved about having my dad in real estate was he could be there. I mean, he never missed a game. He was coach all the way through. He was there to support me, and it's just, for me, it's a little different as a soon-to-be father. Like, our hours are, my guys get to the job site at 6:30 a.m., they leave hard stop at 3:30 p.m., and then our guys leave the office at 5. So, like, for me, it's leaving work at work and not bringing it home. Obviously, I'm going to bring some of it home because I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do, so I'm gonna want to talk about it, and I'm gonna think about it. But I think being present with your kids and not showing that stress and letting it affect your family dinner or your time with your kids, or at the soccer game you're in a pissed off mood because someone made you mad at work, or I think that's the biggest thing for me that I'm gonna try and instill my kids is, hey, dad's gonna be dad when dad is here,
Yeah.
but then I'm gonna go work my butt off to try and provide the greatest life for you.
Well, that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, as far as, like, they still do, but they have disagreements at work, and they're passionate about it. It's not like they don't love each other, but then, like, when we're all together, like, they're dads and friends. They're not business partners at that point. There is a clear difference right away, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well,
Very
kind
cool.
of, I guess back to the question and to the same topic, so what are we doing to help raise our kids in a similar fashion is really just the community and the friendships. And so, kind of like Benjamin was saying, like, there's arguments at work. Well, I think we can all kind of find a time where our best friends really annoyed us or something like that, you know, but making sure our kids know that, you know, it's not wishy-washy. Like, just because somebody frustrated us or we got frustrated with somebody, you know, Uncle Tyler's always gonna be in your life, that sort of thing, and making sure that our kids know that they always have those mentors, is something that I think, you know, we're trying to do, is raise them with the same community of love that we have.
And the relationships that all y'all kind of built together.
Tyler is Skylar's best friend, for those of y'all that don't know that.
That's best.
Yeah.
Kind of following up with that, are there any times that you remember from being raised in an entrepreneurial household where the business got in the way? Or because you were raised in an entrepreneurial household that they had the freedom to attend all your sporting events or not attend, or you were like, dang, I wish dad and mom were here, or whatever the case.
Well, that's the crazy thing. I mean, maybe y'all can point to a specific, look, I realize how spoiled this sounds because of that. I feel like I'm so lucky to have such great parents. I know you guys would say the same. I can only remember, like, my parents missing one of my football games because my brother was playing at the same time, so they split. Like, it was never because of work, ever. Like, I don't know, like.
I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur and being able to make your schedule.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. I mean, we wanna sit here and be like, oh, this industry requires us to be too spread thin where we can't attend, but I don't recall either. I do know, I hear stories that my mom has talked about when we were babies and our dads were building this thing. Those are the days that I think that that the nights and the weekends really, it was tough on our moms. I don't think that we probably recall, because by the time we were old enough to remember it in sports, they made that so much of a priority, because of how hard they worked when we were so little, and they still work hard, but I think our moms, they're really tough, and they did a lot for us to make sure that, you know, we weren't missing our dads when we were little, because they had to be places.
And also, we had each other. I mean,
We had each
like,
other.
it was-
Well, I remember a lot
kinda
of
covered it
weekends,
up.
my dad very well could have been at open houses every single weekend when I was growing up, but I wouldn't know because I was with Clayton's sister Caroline a lot of times at his or Dean's football games. So, you know, that goes back to the community that we all have.
Yeah.
Just supported each other.
Big on relationships. So, what is the single most important thing that you learned from your parents that you apply to your business?
Jack, you're going first. You haven't talked in
We're talking about kids, I don't have
Yeah,
kids.
You're working on it.
Working on it.
You're doing something unique.
He's working on it.
Doesn't care.
I'd say you have to earn everything that you want. You have to earn your money, you have to earn your relationship and your respect, but I'd just say earn everything.
Work hard, man.
Yeah, work hard, and it'll all come into fruition.
You're doing pretty good at that.
Trying
Got
to.
a couple pendings.
Trying to.
Be in the right place at the right time, right?
Yeah.
I think, and this might not be the single most important thing that I've learned, but definitely something that I've learned, and Benjamin already said about my dad, is, and I just remember growing up, we'd be in a cab, or we'd be at a restaurant, or it didn't matter where we were, he was always asking if they knew anyone who wanted to buy or sell a house, leaving his card, writing his number on a napkin at a restaurant. And I don't do as well as that, in regards to asking for the business.
You can ask all of these people right now.
It's something, it's something that, it's always in the back of my head from my dad, you gotta ask for the business, and what's the worst that can happen is they say no, it's better than not asking, and, he tells all of you guys that probably on a daily basis as well, so, as far as it relates to business, that's one, I guess, takeaway from my dad that I think I'll always carry with me in real estate and otherwise, like being a mom and having kids. They say, oh, accept the help, whatever, but it's hard to know what you need. You kind of have to ask for help. You got to put yourself out there and say, this is what I need from you. And he's not afraid to do that in any area of his life. And,
I think, I already said this, but it goes back, again, is just to treat people the way you want to be treated in life and in business. It's going to get you a long way, because I know in my business, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of people that go into building our buildings, and there's a lot of things that can go sideways when it comes to it, and you see people sitting there on site and just arguing and yelling and screaming at each other. That doesn't really accomplish anything. It sure doesn't accomplish anything for you if you're the one on the other end of it, because at some point you're going to make a mistake and you're going to have to own up to it. And if you treat the person that maybe made the mistake and made you mad the right way, they might be able to treat you the same way back, and you're gonna move forward. I always say, when we run into issues on jobs, I always say, rather than sitting here yelling and screaming at each other, let's find a solution. Let's fix this thing. Let's move forward. We can figure it out later. We can always figure out who's gonna pay for it or who's responsible later. But right now we got to get this thing fixed, and we got to get the deal done in y'all's case, or we got to get this building built in my case. And I think that my dad's always done a really good job in his life doing that. I'm sure there's plenty of deals or whatever he's done that have gone a little sideways, that he's kind of reeled back in and said, hey, let's get this thing done. We'll worry about it later. Hey, I'll spend a little bit of extra money here just to make sure everyone, handles their self the right way. And I think it's a good lesson for me that I've tried to hold on to and try to do my business that way.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you guys have said, but like we had, still do, and will have, like, we have a lot of fun. Like, do a lot of different things, whether it's just like at our house or elsewhere or whatever. But like, there is no question that every single bit of it is earned. Like you said, JC, like every single bit of it is earned and more, and you're consistently earning all four of them. And I'm grateful to pass this on to us. Like, there's always an opportunity to grow and to get better. Like, I know, like you talk about, we were looking at, I've heard lots of stories about their tempers early on, but I think for the most part, all four of these guys are very controlled in their attitudes, the way they handle things. They handle situations like that, Clayton, and it's cool to learn from that. And then I would say, they're very open and treating people the way they want to be treated, and they'll talk to anybody, but at the same time, they're also very selective on who they surround themselves with the right people. They do, and they've had a knack for that. I mean, if you're at the personality profiling class, like each one of those four guys falls in a different quadrant. They surround themselves with people who can make them better because they're a little bit different but hold similar morals and values. Like, Todd's the analytical guy, obviously. Mike's the driver / the expressive. Dean's the definite expressive, and Rodney's the amiable. Like, and they work together well like that, but they have the common ground of their values. And I just think their ability to be selective in who they associate with is extremely important and something I've learned a lot from.
I mean, wouldn't you say, just from knowing all you guys and knowing them, wouldn't you say, just the valuing of relationships? I mean,
Yeah.
like from your dad, from being a developer to a builder,
Yeah.
to a realtor, to you and your business, and being built on referrals. I mean, you kind of cherish relationships.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Probably one of the things y'all have learned over the years from being raised the way you were raised.
easily. I mean, if you ever I feel like maybe I think this because it's like the popular thing to say, but a lot of times if people need something, like they go online and they search for it. If I need something, I call one of these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I have the people that can help me get the answers. Like they're my own Google machine. The relationships are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it sounds very biased, but it's not. Like,
Yeah. Right.
If I need something to figure something out, and even in my business sometimes, I'm calling one of them. Like,
Right.
it's true. I think that was a really good point.
Yeah.
So, moving on here, are there any funny stories or experiences
About.
that you can share about growing up together, or about your parents related to the business? I know y'all
Could be
got
here
plenty.
all.
I'll share one, and I don't know the full scope of this. I'll just tell you the different things that were involved. I don't know if any of the children were born yet. I'm the Madison's the second oldest, right? So I'm 2.5 years older than Madison. So, okay, so I think I was still within that window. So I was the only one. And Todd and Mike are at one of their earlier meetings or something like that. And they were at Midway, Calabash Seafood across from Lee Davis. And I think it was a long night. There may have been some sort of altercation, and a police car may have been there. And I don't know what happened. I just remember that. And supposedly, they had to call Becky, my mom. She drove up there, and they're talking to him, and I'm in the car seat, and Mike's like, "Hey, buddy," and he's talking to me, and all I remember is, I don't remember any of this. The way the story goes, Becky snapped at Mike and said, "You do not talk to my son." So I mean, that's probably the earliest funny story I have, and I'm sure there's way more juicy details about that story, but that's about all I got from that one.
That was after a zoning case gone wrong.
So you've heard the story too.
Yeah, and so Mike and Todd went to Midway to get a drink, kind of blow off some steam, and they're in their suits and everything, going into Midway, and so there were some other guys in there that didn't appreciate their suits, and it ended up poorly, so, for the other guy, not for my dad.
I have a good one that Rodney shared with me actually a couple weeks ago. My dad and Rodney were out at a Mike Ferry training session, and they were in California, and the training session got out at 6 o'clock. So Rodney and my dad were like, let's go over to the local pub and get a refreshment. And so they're doing a couple suds and doing the whole thing, and there's a karaoke machine. So they get up on the karaoke machine, and Rodney said that they did 12 to 14 songs in a row. And a guy comes up to him after the bar was closing. He's like, "Hey man, I got a card. It's my wife's birthday next week." They thought they were the actual karaoke machine guys that were putting on the show. So I always thought that was pretty good.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Y'all got a card?
Anything else?
No, I mean, not as it relates to business, but I mean, obviously we know these stories that we weren't around when this stuff happened, but we're all still so close with our parents and each other's parents to where we still hang out with them.
Yeah, there's still
Have some
stories.
refreshments with them. Their stories we'll probably never know, but their stories that they're
So that's a
sharing
big
with
part
us
of this.
now,
It's a huge.
So they probably have more funny stories that maybe they tried to keep from us when we were growing up, but.
I think some of I couldn't even give you a specific example, but you guys remember when I lived in that first house in Avondale, and all the kids would come over to my house after the event.
Yeah.
That was a good time. It was kids gathering at Benjamin's. Those were good times.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions in the crowd? Yeah, Shannon.
I do. So, I have a client whose daughter came to me kind of in the same scenario. She's super smart. She's becoming a doctor, and she's completed her degree and then 2 years plus.
Can't relate to that.
She goes, "Did you know that they charge interest on the car? I bought my first car because we paid for everything in cash, and I can't believe this half of this." She's just going on and on. So, is there anything that you guys have shared or you plan on teaching your children about investing, simple interest, compounded, any of the investment side of it, because I'm only at the point with my son that I'm like, credit cards the devil, they've got a purpose, but I'm not explaining to you yet. So he tells everybody to only use a debit card.
I can speak very selfishly about this. Like, I have a financial advisor who I know very well and I love, but my number one financial advisor will forever be my father. Like, yesterday I met with him about finances for an hour. And so I started learning about that from him, and I'm interested in it too, so maybe that helps, but I can speak very selfishly to that. Like, I don't really get into finances with Mike, Dean, or Rodney, but like, everybody has their own opinions, but I learned, like, you talked about like money and banking 101 in college. Like, I started getting that from my dad pretty early.
I think just from what I've heard, like I said, I haven't had a ton of conversations with any of the other parents about it, but I think all of our parents differ in a little bit, just like we all
No
do,
doubt.
about their opinions and their investing strategies. And so I don't necessarily do or think the same things that my dad does, but like Benjamin says, like, he's still my number one go-to, because he's obviously done something right, and I really trust that, and they all have. And so I think even hearing their perspectives has definitely helped us kind of form our own, but I don't think any of them, I mean, you see where they all are, and I think they've all done it differently. So it doesn't, I don't know specifically what I'm gonna teach my children, still kind of figuring that
I mean,
out.
like, did they let you buy your first car and finance it, or did they make you save it up and buy it outright, or anything like that?
I think we were all pretty fortunate to have been gifted our own cars when we were
Yeah,
growing up.
I mean, car specifically, yeah, but like, there's also like, I was given a credit card, I think, when I got my license, but like, the idea was like, they, like, up front, like, that we can see what you put on this is like emergency only, so it's like they start like little lessons like that, and then if you did it, like, I would get extra interest on top of that, like, little things like that.
I had no credit card until I was.
See, I don't think that's little things to the majority of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no credit card, but I had, like a debit card that I would get X amount per month for doing stuff around the house, and like, that's what I got. So
Well, yeah.
that really taught me too, like, okay, I could go get gas and go to Chipotle and go to the mall and do all these things, but if I blow all my money, I'm not getting anything else until the next month. And, in this business, when we don't know necessarily when our next check is coming or what it's gonna be for, I think that probably helped me with the budgeting stuff that I'm dealing with now.
Well, and again, like, we all grew up working, like, it was 7th grade is when I started, and excuse my language, but it was the RCI ditch crew. That's what it was. You scrape and sweep houses, you pick up trash, clean mud off the streets, I mean, you name it, you're on it. Like, maybe cut a few yards if you're lucky that day.
Equipment crew was like a big promotion.
Equipment, yeah, that was huge. I got to
But then
manage
it
the yard
really was
crew for
not
a
good.
couple of weeks. That was sweet.
I did too.
I
Big
worked at
promotion.
Marty's at 14, and I don't think you're supposed to work till 15,
Yeah.
but I worked at Marty's when they opened.
But like, when I was in 7th grade, I had to pack my lunch, and like Ray Melton would come pick me up on the front doorstep. You know what I mean? And I got a check every 2 weeks, and it was $7.25 an hour, but it was a real check, and like taxes were taken out of it. It's like, it wasn't like I just got like cash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned about that at RCI. So I'd always cut people's yards, they'd hand you cash. And I started at $7.25, which is
That's
ridiculous.
It's 8 years later.
Yeah, I know, but he
5
still
years
paid me,
later,
and I
yeah.
got a nickel raise after
Nice.
that. But no, like, I learned about that through working at RCI. Like, I got my first paycheck, and I was like, where is the rest of it? And that's a great question. It's really like, as they've been speaking, I'm just thinking a lot of like, well, how did I learn that stuff? And for me, it was, I had my debit card because I had a job, and I would put money into my checking account, and my mom always could see what I was doing with it. So I was like, well, if I don't want to go spend all my money because my mom's going to yell at me. So I just sort of learned to manage my money the right way. And same thing, like, that was the money I had when I couldn't work. That was the money I had to get me through the semester. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I better not spend it. And if I wanted to make a big purchase on something I wanted, I was always go to my parents and be like, hey, what do you think about me spending my own money on this? Whatever it was. And then when I got to college, I had a scholarship check, and it was the same way. It was like, hey, this is what you have for the month. We're gonna, this has got to get you through. So we had to budget our money the right way. If we went and blew it all in the first weekend, then we weren't gonna eat, so,
Yeah, I mean, we all, like, you talk about waiting tables, like, I was a busser, you know what I mean, like, we've all, I'm very fortunate, I didn't have to pay for my college, that was, and I know not everybody's that fortunate, but I wasn't given a dime of spending money, like, it was all,
Right.
like, anything I wanted to spend was on me, like, and so I had to
in the
work for
bare
it.
essentials.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
I had, so Madison Rogers was getting married, my sister got married a year before, but Madison got married and was getting married my senior year of college, and we had to pay for the bachelorette party, and Sarah got married that same year too. So in really a calendar year, it was my sister, Sarah, and Madison. So between bachelorette parties, bridesmaids dresses, you know, all this stuff, it adds up, and I'm a college student. I had a part-time job at a doctor's office, partly not really to make a lot of the money, but I was supposed to be living off of summer income. Anyways, and I'm calling my dad, I'm like, I gotta buy these bridesmaids dresses, can you pay for this? Thinking like, oh, well, I'm in these people's wedding, it's my sister, it's whatever, and he's like, no, you gotta realize if you put, and I don't know the specific numbers, but he's like, $50 a week in your sock drawer, then you'll be able to buy this dress. $60 a week after that in your sock drawer, you can buy this dress. So he wasn't just telling or giving me these dresses because somebody asked me to be in their wedding, and it was, you know, he didn't care if I wore jeans to my sister's wedding. He was gonna teach me what it took to get there, and at the time, $250 sounded crazy for me to spend on a dress, and he broke it down to say, well, look, this is how you can get there on your own, like a sinking fund. And so, I mean, that's something that, you know, obviously as an adult, I don't necessarily attribute to that, but probably anything that we wanna do, I look and see what it's gonna cost, and I really take the time to figure out how hard I have to work and what I have to put away to get there.
Well, you know what your dad told me when you were considering, cause where in state were you considering going before UGA? Was there somewhere in state?
JMU was
Okay, so
my
he was
next,
talking, he was like, yeah, Abby's thinking about UGA or JMU, and I know, you know, University of Georgia's out of state, so it's definitely more expensive, but he's like, it's just 12 more houses a year, we're good. Like, he just like 12 more sales,
He thinks
figure it
about
out.
it, he
Like,
breaks it down,
he
yeah.
breaks it down into how many more houses he's gotta sell to reach it. But, you guys will find this funny because just his attitude. My funniest, I guess, money stories was Sam when he was on the RCI crew, and Sam had made his own personal executive decision that he didn't need to work any longer. He was like, I'm good. I get up early, I do the workout thing. Like I'm a football guy. Like I'm good on that. He's telling me, he's like, you know, I go to Mom, I need $20 for the movie. She just gives me $20. Like, why do I need to work? And so like he walks into Todd's office one day after the crew work. And he walks in his office like 4:30. He's like, Dad, I know this is like 2008. He's like, I know times are tough, and like, I just want you to know, like, I'm good. Like, I don't need money. I'm okay. Todd goes, great. You'll work for free starting tomorrow. I'm like,
Forgetting the part where he'd leave his wallet in the truck at lunch every day too.
He still owes me
He
about
still does that.
$2,700
Still
for lunch.
does that, I hear from Becky, so.
Anybody else in the crowd? Anything? Well, I think a couple takeaways that I got from today's class. I know when you were talking about the moms, I mean, I think there's a level of resiliency there, and back to your comments about Todd, you know, being at work on Saturday, the unseen discipline, and probably the patience that the moms had to have, you know, bringing you all along. It's probably, and in our business too. I mean, I think patience is a big thing in our business. Resiliency, being able to recover quickly, and I think they probably all gave y'all some of those qualities coming along. So I think I got a couple great things out of this. I hope you guys got a few good things out of this. And anybody got anything to add?
JC, you want to say anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you guys for being here. It's been
Thank you.
awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.